I'm Steve Lentini, Lord and Lentini, and I'm partnered with Southwestern Consulting. Southwestern Consulting's been around 165 years, and they have so many capable coaches that I'm able to delegate coaching because my hours are obviously limited. Not in terms of my age. I'm not talking about my hours left here on earth. What I'm talking about is I can leverage my production and how many people I can help by having so many capable and qualified coaches. And Southwestern Advantage built their system on years of hiring and training salespeople during college semester break. So in the late spring, early summer, they would recruit and hire and train every year for well over 100 years students to sell. What began in the beginning was Bibles in the South. Eventually, it morphed into educational materials door to door for parents to help supplement their children's learning in the summer. And what they realized around 15 or 20 years ago was that they could extend that knowledge that they gained by hiring, training, managing salespeople every summer for years. And of course, as people graduated, some actually joined Southwestern Advantage and helped with the recruiting and the training. And that eventually morphed into Southwestern Consulting. When they realized since they were hiring and training and managing salespeople for all those years, they could impart that knowledge on companies today. And that's what they've been successfully doing. There's sales training and sales seminars and speakers that we offer. And there's also sales training with coaching, which is fascinating to me because it's in line with the idea that when I had the license for a national sales training program, it was based on reinforcement training, right? Seminars are good, they're really entertainment. And what people retain after a seminar is 50% gone after maybe a month or two. Some say it's 2 weeks. I suspect there are a large percentage of people that retain more. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the habits of top producers and happy people because I think the two are related. Now, can people who are unhappy produce? Yes, they work a lot harder. They work a lot harder than they have to because they forget that we do live in a universe, which that's mind blowing, or it should be for most people. And there are laws about living in a universe that people have talked about for thousands of years. In fact, I wrote about some of that in my book, Sage Advice. But today we're talking about selling and coaching. And I wrote the book Helping People Buy in 2015. And that's part of the philosophy that I think makes sense today. It's what the buyers want. They want people that are there to help them buy, to help them make a decision, and not tacky tactics and techniques from salespeople who are only out for their own goals, trying to manipulate people and manage people into a sale. And over time, what happens is they show up with that energy and they have what I call commission breath, and it stinks. So there's a different energy. If you have commission breath, you're pushing for the sale. And feel that energy as I push my hands against the screen. Now, do some people need a little nudge to make a decision? Yes, and we'll talk about that. But helping people buy is an energy that brings people in because you care, you're concerned, you're passionate about what you do. You join a company that has great solutions that you can love. You can have a passionate energy about your work because you're helping people and companies. Now, that's a disconnect in many companies and sales teams. I can tell you. I've witnessed it when I've consulted and worked at different companies over the years. And I've been doing this a while. So I do have a background. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today, the habits of top producers, begins with vision. Then it goes to mental management, right? They're managing their mind, their emotions. They learn not to believe they're thinking. I call that the acorn brain, the little small minded thinker, that little incessant voice that I think everyone has, not just me. I certainly hope that to be the case. Then it's detaching from outcomes, and I'll explain that more. It's, of course, helping people buy versus selling and explaining that energy and the difference between it and why people prefer those that are helping them buy today. Recognizing how each person is different, and I'll tell you more about that. Being a student of the game. And I talked a little bit about having the energy and the passion, the love for what they do, because what they sell is a solution to other people's problems. And it's helping people. So we'll talk more about that. And then finally, we'll talk about living in a universe and how to be happier and how that makes a difference every day when you go out into the world, because it's an energy. The whole universe is energy, and people can feel it. We'll talk more about that. So let's go back to vision. Everything begins with a vision, and it is certainly a goal. But what I'm talking about here is top producers have a vision in their mind. They visualize it, and then they don't worry about how they're going to achieve it. They do manage their behavior, and we'll talk about that. But first, they begin with the end in mind. What is it they want to do? How many people they want to help? Maybe it's as simple as, how can I have a grand impact on thousands of companies, make money, and have fun? But they also visualize, they spend time in their imagination. As Einstein said, it's limitless. So they spend time in their imagination. They actually picture handshakes, contracts, presentations, speaking to audiences. If they're a golf pro, they're picturing their swing. If they're playing sports, they're picturing the sport. It's called being in the zone, and they recognize it when they're in it. But before they're in it, they picture it. So it begins with a vision and spending some time in your mind. Now, whether you call it meditation or not, I don't care what you call it. You spend some time actually picturing the outcomes before they happen, and you feel it in your body. So besides vision, they're feeling it in their body once they picture it, with some awe and excitement and some exuberance. They get excited, which is an energy that propels them throughout their day. Plus, they can do that during the day as they manage their emotions. When they start to feel something less than positive, that's this brain that has functioned for many years without any training. Most people don't hear about training their mind. They don't hear about it. So that will move us into mental management. Top producers learn to manage their mind. Now, everyone has some negative thoughts. Everyone has that little voice incessantly talking, telling them, "Oh, you really messed this one up. I told you you're not worthy, you're not worth it, you're less than this person, you're less than the other." Comparison is that little mind. Whenever you're comparing, you're stuck in small-minded thinking. You're judging when you feel sad or depressed, or if you feel more than anyone else. That's that little voice. None of it is true. Those voices lie. And if you can get to the place where you can manage that voice, 70% of the time. Where you run it, you'll feel it in your body. You'll feel more positive and energized and excited for what's about to come, without worrying about how. Then, of course, you go about and do your job. There's a behavior that's required, right? I like to say when I give some of my trainings or my talks that you wouldn't be able to go to the mountain with a guru for 10 years and come back with an email that says, "Hey, while you were out, there was a $10 million territory created for you. And you're earning millions of dollars a year. Here's your check for 10 million while you were gone 10 years." That's unrealistic. So there is behavior that's required. And it's natural for people who are top producers because they envision it. They start with it in their mind, and then they manage their mind, their mental management of their emotions and those thoughts. They recognize small minded negative thoughts. And many people are 35 or 40 or 50% of the time in positive. They're allowing that acorn brain to run them. In the 1800s, Rainer Maria Rilke called it the little hooligan. He wrote about it. He would say, "Will you let that little hooligan run you, or will you run it?" That's what he called that little voice. In the early 1900s to around 1940s, George Ivanovich Gurdjieff used to say, "Will you let the machine run you, or will you run it?" That's what he called that little voice. He also said something fascinating that most people, it's as if they live in a mansion and only occupy the first floor. And for some, I would say maybe they only think there's one bedroom. They forget they're living in a mansion. That's the idea of living in something we really don't understand. I mean, physicists might take offense to that. They think they're getting closer. We're far off. We're gaining some knowledge and perspective, of course, and space travel will help us, and all these telescopes are helping us, but they're also discovering even more stuff that just blows the mind of the people doing the experiments. But there's an energy to that, recognizing you live in something you can't define. You live in something amazing, something infinite. We give it the word infinite or universe to give it a definition because this brain needs things defined. And this acorn represents limited, small minded thinking because this acorn, I don't know if it has a consciousness. I suspect it does because if you plant it, it will grow into an oak tree, all conditions being right, albeit. So this has the intelligence in it to become an oak tree. But as Ben Franklin said, if you're all wrapped up in yourself, you make a very small bundle. That's what this represents, a very small bundle. And it's a tale of potential, possibility. It could become an oak tree, just like you could become very successful if you're having challenges, or if you're, say, stuck in a flat spot, flat sales, you could re-energize your career. So mental management, there's a lot of tools for that. I'm also certified for the PQ program, which is Shirzad Shamin's program. If you haven't read his book, Positive Intelligence, or if you haven't taken the assessment, reach out to me. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you reach out to me at my email, slentini, Lentini, at southwesternconsulting.com, and I'll share with you details about their program and about the PQ program. It's all helping people succeed because you're managing your mind. That's what top producers do. The next thing is they're detached from outcomes. And I remember sharing that with a client 15, 16 years ago. And he said to me, "Don't share that with anybody, detaching from outcomes. I don't want my team detached from outcomes." I said, "Okay, so you'd rather having them struggle." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, when they're attached to outcomes, what I'm talking about," I won't say his name, What I'm talking about, sir, is being fully present and understanding whether there's a fit and establishing a good back and forth dialogue so both parties, the future client, hopefully, and the salesperson, can determine it's a fit. And there wasn't a lot of discussion about that going back to just that. It's relatively uh, short time ago that people were stuck in what kind of tactics and techniques that you can teach my salespeople so they can close more deals. Get out there and close more deals. What did you close lately? All dumb questions by management. Really dumb, especially today. Helping people win, just like helping people buy, is an energy. Now, whether or not they're in the right position, you'll determine that over time because they'll show you whether they're happy or not. If they're struggling for a long time, find another place for them in your company. Maybe it's sales support, especially if they know the product well. But helping them win is a few ways, right? And this is detaching from outcomes. First of all, you define as a leader and managers what are the ideal clients in your customer book? Because you have many of them that love you. Why? Why do they recommend you? Why do they give you testimonials? Why do they pay you on time and promptly and respect all your rules? Discover that. And then find more of those clients, right? You can profile them and find prospects for the pipeline that fit those profiles because you'll find that your customer book tells you a story. Then there's the good customers. There's some issues and some challenges, and they push the boundaries a little bit. Maybe they help us grow. Still, they may be a little higher cost to serve them. A lot of companies don't track that, but there may be a little higher cost to serve them. They're still good customers. Then there's those that have a tremendously high cost to serve. Why do you want more of them? Why wouldn't you disqualify them? Be more discerning so that you have fewer of them on your books. The company becomes more profitable. That's the thing to have a discussion about. What's profitable? What's the cost to serve? Which customers have a high cost to serve? Why? Let's avoid these people. And how do we avoid them? We ask questions to find the fit. You can build questions. So, what are you looking for in a supplier? How long have you been with the supplier you have now, or the software provider, or the service provider? How long have you been with them? What's worked in the past? What's working today? What would you like the future to look like? Let's say it's us. What if it was us? What would you want us to do? What's important to you? So, discernment and identifying from your customer book who are the best customers, who are the next best customers, and then who are those that you really would prefer fewer of, much fewer of. I mean, in fact, many companies have had discussions about firing the lower tier of customers, which is negative. I mean, you can just be more discerning and screen them out up front, or you can take your existing customers and talk to them about new boundaries. Hey, here's some things we'd really like to change in our relationship, and it'll benefit you. It'll improve your productivity. It'll lower your costs. There are costs to people being very demanding and not following what you intended to be the most profitable and productive because it's healthy for you, your company, and it's healthy for them. So detaching from outcomes, there's a couple things it's based on. One, people are more authentic when they're not concerned about, I got to close these people. That's an awful energy, and people can sense it. It takes salespeople out of being authentic. So you want to help them be grounded and find the fit, help them develop great questions, and stop asking them, what did they close lately? Because it puts a pressure on them. It puts a pressure that they end up extending to their clients. It's very difficult to have a stressful environment at work and keep it from their clients when they're in front of them. The other thing about detaching from outcomes is you can't lose what you don't have. So people are in front of people trying with this thought, I got to close these people. I'm going to convince them. It's having a dialogue and finding the fact together that you have solutions to their problems. You can help them become more productive. You can help them become more profitable. You can help them reduce turnover. You can help them discover more in their work because of your software solution. Whatever it is that you do, have the passion for your product because it's helping people. So discover really and know well how you help people. Here's what we help companies with. Here's what we help people do. I've had clients for over 20 years, a number of clients for over 20 years because I'm helping them. And I'm around long enough to where if something starts to be a little bit out of whack, I'm there to help. And so they know my work over time works. And in fact, in over, I would say 12 years, I have done very little prospecting because most of my work has come to me. It's come to me because of an energy, because of the work, my reputation, because of the results I get with people by helping them look at things differently. That's what my work is involved, helping them overcome any small-minded thinking and shift into something limitless. Helping people buy. So helping people buy, I gave some clues about that, is a dialogue where you're curious. You're teaching your salespeople to be curious. This is what we're looking for. This is the answers to the questions that tell us they're an ideal client or a good client potentially. And here are some of the answers, right? The opposites of these answers are probably indicators they're not going to be a good client. And that's where you say, I'm not so sure from what you're telling me that we're going to be a fit, where you're willing to shut down the sale. By the way, a lot of times clients will say, well, how could we be a fit? What am I missing? Or what is it that you're hearing that tells you that we wouldn't be a fit? And or you can offer it. You can say, would you like to hear what concerns me and how I think you could be a fit and what you'd have to consider? So it's all about having a dialogue and helping people buy. You develop your team's curiosity and you help them with that by crafting the questions based on the criteria I gave you earlier. You're looking for great clients that are profitable, that have a lower cost to serve based on your own customer book, the story your customer book is telling you. Next, you have to recognize how each person is different. So I also have I'm partnered, an authorized partner with Wiley Everything Disc. And we have different profiles, what's called a psychosometric assessment. And it helps each salesperson, number one, determine their own style, their predominant characteristics. And then it helps them understand the characteristics of people who they're selling. So they can identify easily people like them. Then they can identify with people that are somewhat like them. And then they can learn to identify people that are not like them. And it can improve their close rate because they make a connection with more people. They start to communicate using the platinum rule. The golden rule is give what you want to get in life. The platinum rule is give to others what they want. And that's how you learn to communicate with their preferred style. And it's not a manipulation because you recognize once you take a psychosometric assessment, there's others besides DISC. DISC is very good because it's simple. It's 4 quadrants: the D, the I, the S, and the C. If you picture a circle, on the left-hand side of the circle is the D and the C. On the right-hand side of the circle is the I and the S. Now, there are 3 subsets in each of those, which is a total of 12. But for an example, Myers-Briggs has 4 blocks, 4 quadrants, they're a square, but there's 16 subsets in every square. If you want people to get it, I recommend DISC if it makes sense to you, because even if they only identify which quadrant is predominant for the person they're talking to, they're going to communicate in a whole new way that's effective, that the other person will hear them more clearly. So learning who's in front of you, because they are different. I've met salespeople who treat every single person the same because they're in their head. It's about me. I've got something great for you. I'm going to help your business. Yes, possibly, but it's arrogant because they're so great. They don't understand why people don't buy from them, why everyone doesn't buy from them. Just think how that sounds. It sounds a little bit crazy, right? All it is they're stuck in their head, and it can be fixed. Mostly. There are some people that'll never get beyond it because they believe they're thinking, I'm the greatest. If you don't buy from me, well, I don't need you. And you clearly don't see how great I am. I once worked with a salesperson that started off every meeting telling them how many successes they had, how great they were. They didn't close everybody. I witnessed sales that they didn't close. Now, they were good. They could have been a lot better and not work so hard. They didn't have to go show up and throw up on every single client. And it was the same for everybody. There was no difference in it. There was no pattern interrupt. Everybody, he showed up exactly the same. So there were 50% of that quadrants that were turned off by his style because they didn't fit. They didn't match up. Now, there is also a style when you learn to recognize it where you do not ask them questions. You do not want them asking, you do not want to be asking so many questions that they're talking 70 to 80% of the time, which is the rule in selling. I'll give you a tip. They're the ones that you say, thank you for the appointment. I know you've done a lot of research about different companies, and somehow you came to include us in your conversations. You must have a lot of questions, so why don't we start there? Why don't you ask me the questions? You need to give them the baton. And that's 25% of the circle. 25% of the people you meet up with, and maybe even 33 to 35%, because some of the characteristics share, right? So on the left side of the circle, the D and the I's in the DISC system, they share some characteristics. So sometimes you're sitting in front of people that are not just a C in the DISC, they're also a CD, and they need to have the baton early. Let them ask you questions. Because in today's world, if you got an appointment, people have done the research, and you're probably one of 3 or one of 4 or one of 2. You're in consideration among others. So they got questions because they've done their research. So that's learning how to communicate differently for the different styles. Now they're student of the game. So student of the game, top producers are students of the game. What does that mean? They go to seminars. They study. They hire their own coach. They read, or they have Audible, or Blinkist, by the way, is $99 a year, and they give you the top points of a book. 6 to 12 minutes. It's kind of like the Cliff Notes on any book. Then you can decide if you want to buy the book and invest the time, or you do end up with the top 6 to 13 points of the author's points, of what the author intended, the message. That's amazing for 99 bucks, right? Go out and buy that if you're a student of the game. But students of the game are willing to put skin in the game, meaning they're willing to invest in themselves. I know people who would first invest $50,000 in a kitchen renovation, or $75,000 in a bathroom and kitchen renovation, knowing they're going to get a one-time return. Maybe they'll get $70,000 back on top of what they invested. Maybe the house value will go up. But what if you invested $10,000 a year in training and coaching? And a coach got to know you, like some of the clients I've had for over 20 years, who've now, their careers have expanded and they've brought me into their companies, et cetera. It's much larger than I could have even anticipated when I first met them. It started with them as individuals. But they were able to see investing in themselves had value. What do you think the return has been? Now, it didn't start out at $10,000 a year, but it started out at a level that was, back then, 20-something years ago, that most people wouldn't invest in themselves. So let's just call it $5,000 a year over 20 years. It's easy, right? $100,000. They've invested in themselves. Amazing what they've gotten back. In some cases, $100,000 more than they imagined in 1 year in bonus, or $200,000 or $300,000. Imagine that, right? They've gotten back on a $100,000 investment more than $1 million. Would you make that investment? The thing about investing in yourself, it occurs over and over again. It's like compounding. It continues to grow and return. And to have a coach to sound off when we get stuck in the acorn brain is amazing. Not coming from me. I'm not telling you that it was me. It was their openness, their open-mindedness. Students of the game are open-minded. They're not worried that their brain will fall out because they have an open mind. They have an open mind. So students of the game, right? You get it. They're working on themselves. And it isn't just about self-help books, but it's expanding their self-awareness, their emotional quotient. They're observing themselves. They have a level of thinking, as Sri Kumar Rao talks about, and Dr. Roland Alexander in their books. They develop a level of thinking above their thinking. They don't live as a reaction. They grow their responsibility. They learn to respond in different ways to situations that continue to appear in their life, even people that continue to appear that maybe years ago bothered them, or that they reacted to. They were angry, sad, frustrated, depressed. Whatever emotional state that manifests in your body is coming from your subconscious. You have previously trained your subconscious like you did when you learned anything new. A sport, driving, a new job. You're nervous. You were not able to actually do everything correct in the beginning. But eventually the subconscious takes over. It becomes, yeah, okay, you do this, you do that. How many of you have noticed while driving that you have a thought after, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, you say, who the heck was just driving the last 5 miles? Yeah, the subconscious takes over. What most people don't realize is it's the same with all your emotional responses over the years. In fact, neuroscientist Joe Dispenza, Dr. Shirzad Chamine, who wrote the book Positive Intelligence and developed the PQ program, And others have said, till the age of 35, our subconscious records every emotional state we get into, and it relates it to certain events and certain people. And so that emotional state becomes automatic. When certain people cross your path, your subconscious says, "No, we know what you do with this person. Give them a piece of your mind." "Oh, we know what happens in this situation. You get sad and depressed. You'll be eating quarts of ice cream tonight and a pizza, junk food, crying jack movies." Or thoughts like, "You got to leave this job. These people are awful. This boss is awful. These people are awful." Things don't change, by the way, unless you change. And so if you don't deal with all these situations in a new way, you could leave your job, but guess what? Wherever you go, there you are. You'll continue to take your same responses because you haven't retrained your mind. That's part of student of the game. They expand their emotional intelligence, their responsibility. They develop a level of thinking above their thinking because your IQ is static, but your EQ can grow over the years. And you know that if you're now in your 50s or 60s, I hope you know that you're a different person today. You respond differently than you did because you learned something. And as you become conscious of your ability to respond in a new way and you start catching what triggers you, you're noticing when a certain emotional state manifests in your body. That's coming from your subconscious because it remembers something you previously trained it, you programmed it. So that's fascinating because if you programmed all the past that made you sad, happy, angry, frustrated, lashing out at people, giving them a piece of your mind, you can reprogram that. That's the great news. You're not a victim of circumstance. Students of the game are masters of circumstance, and the first thing they learn to master is themselves. I have a quote that says, "If you don't like your experience of the world, change how the world is experiencing you." Change how the world is experiencing you. That's what students of the game do. So now they have a love and a passion for how they help others. Yes, you can have a passion for making money. Yes, it's fine. Money's a good thing. As long as you understand it means nothing in terms of the outer world, right? If you're trying to impress others and spending your money to impress others, you're living from the outside in. So no title will satisfy you. Nothing will make you happy from the outside in. You'll just keep buying more stuff, bragging to others. You'll find at some point in time that new car, that new boat, that new house, the vacation house, yada, yada, at some point in time, they all become a burden because it's not the solution you thought it was. Well, when I get this, I'll be happy. I'll be satisfied and happy when I get. There's a question in there. I'll be happy and satisfied when. When? It's a question. You won't be. Happy people become happy as a decision, as a choice. They decide to live from the inside out. They spend time in the morning and throughout the day thinking about what they're grateful for and their blessings and have some awe for what shows up, even if it bothers you in the moment. This is interesting, but let me go with it. Got to be something I must deal with, as opposed to, "Oh, brother, I'll give you a piece of my mind." When you react, you've lost your power. It's small minded. When you respond, You're open to many possibilities, and you open more doors for yourself. You open up more possibility. So your love is for yourself and for how many people you can help. So if you make a lot of money, wonderful. You help others and you're happy to share it because you're grateful and you know you live in something abundant. In fact, people that are really happy and understand money enjoy giving it away because they know they'll make more. And they love making more because they love helping others. That's the frame of mind you want to find in your work. How is your company helping others? How is your work serving others, other companies, other people? Maybe you live in a company you work in a company that not only helps others by their product or service and what they do, right? What they offer, and it's exciting, right? Because you've got such a great product or solution for people or service. But you also work in a company that's extending that out into the community. They're helping others. That's the nature of it. And so then you're excited when you sit in front of people because you're there curious to find out what are their challenges, what are their problems, how can we help? What's not working today? Who's the solution provider or who's the service provider? When did you last change service providers? When did you bring them on board? Well, I brought them on board last year and I've changed every year for the last 10 years. That might not be a fit. Chances are they're going to change you in a year. But if they tell you, well, I've been with them 8 years and I don't know, things seem to have fallen off. Well, tell me more. What's fallen off? Same people helping you over the 8 years? No, they've had a lot of turnover. Oh, okay. They might even ask you, how long have you been with your company? Oh, I've been here 12 years. That'll be a door opening to closing that customer because they're looking for some stability. But if they say to you, well, we've been with so-and-so for 15 years and we're just looking to see what's out there for price, maybe we can save some money. I'm not sure that would be a fit for us. I mean, is there anything you'd improve about them? You've been with them a long time. Now you're listening. You have the same salesperson. Oh, yeah. You go to events or dinners or lunches or breakfasts or they bring gifts. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Let's suppose that you do change. You decide that we could help because we might improve your productivity, save you some money that way, or you like our solution. What are you going to tell Mary when she comes in that you're changing after 15 years or 12 years? I mean, people have to have those conversations. That's being authentic. Salespeople are afraid to ask those questions. Having a passion for your work, you're authentic, and you find a way to say what you're feeling, and you bring your biggest fears up. You bring them up first. When you hear answers to questions that don't fit for you, that you have a right, it's a two-way street. You're finding the fit for both of us. You can even tell people that. I've got a process, and let me tell you a little bit about our sales process. I'm going to ask some questions. Then you're certainly going to have some questions. And what I'm looking to do is help you find the fit with us and us with you. And if you would like, I'll tell you a little more about that. They're not afraid. Salespeople aren't afraid to do that because you're authentic. There are plenty of people that over the years of sales that have said, yeah, this is great. All right, call me Monday. I'll give you the PO. Call them Monday. Voicemail jail. You don't get an answer because you didn't do the work. It's not them. It's you. People who are authentic are more successful today in sales than people who learn techniques and tactics. I was listening to the radio the other day and some guy came on screaming, I'm the world's best sales trainer. Did you know that most salespeople haven't read one book? That 20% of your salespeople are closing 80% of your sales? Well, we're the world's best sales trainer and we can teach them. And here's something they can learn. It's a 45-minute click here. You can get it. You'll learn something, and I guarantee it. That scares me. I hope it scares you. I've been around long enough with people and been doing this since 1998 in one form or another, my own work starting in 2003. And I've consulted companies. I've witnessed very many companies. I've worked in companies that had sales teams and saw what worked and what didn't, including my own failings, right? That's the other thing, is that top producers are vulnerable. They're not walking around like they're perfect. No one's perfect in this world. We're all flawed human beings. And if you're in your mind comparing yourself to others, that's where the acorn brain is taken over. That's where you're not managing your mind. That's what top producers do. They get coaching. That's why I'm partnered with Southwestern Consulting, because we have over 150 coaches. And the core of those are very experienced. Not to say that some of the new ones aren't experienced. They all come from sales backgrounds. And we train them how to help people. We certify their coaching ability. And we have some hurdles they have to get over to become a part of the team. So I have 30-something people that I coach on a monthly basis, and I have 30 or 40 coaches that can help me out of that whole group, because we're all on different teams in a positive way, right? Not competing, but in our team, I have a group of people that can take on. If everyone took on 10, I could take on 400 clients and have them coached, and then I stay in touch. I'm the one that manages the relationship. And we stay in touch with the goals and how the program is progressing. And we have a lot of people that repeat. And we have companies who share some of that cost, and some companies share 100% of the cost. But we encourage people to have skin in the game, to encourage their people to have skin in the game. Maybe they pay half and the company pays half, and you give them a goal. By the way, if you hit this and this based on the goals the company wants to achieve, profitability, a certain number of new clients that are a certain percent profitable, and you hit that and we'll pay the rest. It's a great way to tie in something to incentivize people, because without skin in the game, by the way, in my experience, including me not having skin in the game, it's not the same as having skin in the game. And I've paid over the years $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year and more for coaching. I still do pay for coaching. I have coaches. I'd be out of integrity if I was telling you to get coaching with training and that I didn't do it myself. And most of my work today is helping people manage their mind, that they can run that little voice. So last but not least, about being happy. Number one, we live in a miracle. I hope you can see this. This is the United States, among other countries, painted on a globe. Let's see. Let me make sure I get the United States. There it is. I guess I got to go this way. All right. I leave this by my desk as a reminder. I give them to clients too. I give them an acorn and a little globe to remind them. One is question any small-minded thinking. When I hear it, I ask people, does that sound small-minded? What are other possibilities? Is this a reaction? And I hyphenate reaction. So people that I've worked with for a long time, they picture it that way, because I hyphenate it when I give a talk, when I give a speech, when I talk about my near-death experience. That's not for today, and I can tell you it changed my whole perspective. That's where I came up with the idea that that's our job, is to overcome small-minded thinking. Because this little voice didn't go with me when I passed to the other side, to what I call what's next. But it also reminded me that we live in a miracle, because life continues. We should call death what's next. There's the US and Canada, North America, Mexico. So top producers know that happiness is a state of mind that they can stimulate every day by spending some time thinking about what they're grateful for, going back to what they're grateful for when they feel a little bit tense in their body or angry or sad, because it's not true. It's that voice lying that you've retrained, because it's a similar situation. When things don't go your way, oh, we know what you do. You get sad. So you can retrain the mind when you notice your emotional state, because the mind begins to control the body. And then you feel it in your body, and you're probably going down the rabbit hole. But when you catch it, because you develop that level of thinking above your thinking, you can manage it. You can run the mind. And it's fascinating what shows up. As I learn to manage my mind and I reflect back to finally getting better at it over the years, it's amazing that the most amazing things that have occurred to me just came. Clients who put me on retainer called me on the phone. Hey, so-and-so said, we really need you in the company. People have called and said, I've got someone I need you to coach. Some of them have been with me for over 20 years, but they came to me. Amazing what's come to me, including while I was in the hospital, 100 days, 60 days straight, and 40 out of the next 60. 24,000 came in the mail and 5 job offers. I didn't send one resume. I didn't send one invoice. People just sent me money. I was out of work 6 months, but opportunities came. Amazing, just came. Now, I'm not saying that there's nothing you need to do, but I can tell you that even waiting for the ambulance, I was grateful and I surrendered fully to what was about to show up. I didn't think about dying. I didn't think about either staying or going. It didn't matter. And on the 5th day, I flatlined, and I was asked a question by a voice I cannot describe. I can tell you, I was one with the infinite. I was asked a question, stay or go. And my consciousness surrendered with thy will be done. Now, that's all I'm going to share about that story, but it was gratitude and surrender that brought me unimaginable gifts and the resilience to survive 100 days in the hospital, 2 major health challenges. Why I needed the ambulance was I had an attack of acute necrotizing pancreatitis. I didn't know that. Didn't know what it was. But I was grateful. People were asking me, Steve, how's your body? I don't know. And I'm grateful. They were like, man, this guy's weird. Then the EMTs came a little while later and said, how you doing? I said, I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful. And I could tell by the look in their face, this guy needs a shrink and an ER doctor. But 100 days in the hospital, except for 1 day. So 60 days straight and then 40 out of the next 60. And 6 months out of work, I was grateful. Now, were there moments where I wasn't? Yes. But I got right back to it because I knew that voice was lying to me. That voice was lying because I wouldn't have survived. 5 days later, I survived a myocardial infarction, a major heart attack. I have no symptoms today. None. I have less than 10% of my pancreas remaining because they had to remove it. I had a blockage in the duct. Perfect digestion. I do need a little insulin. That didn't occur for 15 years after getting out. It was 21 and a half years ago. I was told I'd need insulin every day. Not for 15 years, I didn't. And there's no symptoms in my heart, right? There's no damage. But I flatlined with 2 friends at the end of my bed. So we live in something that's amazing, right? I can tell you that we do go on. That's not what this is about. What this is about is choosing gratitude and surrender to the moment instead of fighting life. Eckhart Tolle says, when you fight life, life fights you. So people that are fighting to make sales because the boss said, "What'd you close lately?" and they're out there running around like crazy because they're driven by money, they're living on the wrong end of the spectrum. Like I said, they're living from the outside in. And what happens is they're fighting everything that shows up. I'm going to get more. I don't care what that guy says. I'm going to go around him. I'm going to close this deal. I'm going to find others. When you fight life, life fights you. But don't take my word for it. Practice surrender and gratitude. When it shows up, think about what Eckhart Tolle says. Oh, I'm not going to fight this. Let me see where this takes me. Maybe it's something for me to learn and grow from. What's the gift in this? It's a different perspective. That's what I help people with. It's what I talk about when I speak. So if you have any questions, you can email me, Steve@SteveLentini. I'll spell it L as in Linda, E, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, INI.com, or slentini, again, LENTINI, at southwesternconsulting.com. And I'm glad to help. It's what I do. I have people call me all the time, and I help them because it's what I'm here to do. And people who are living from the inside out do good. They notice when life gives them an opportunity, invites them to do good. Maybe it's someone that needs a sandwich or a few bucks. Instead of judging them and listening to that little angry voice that says, they need to get a job, give them a few bucks. How do you feel when you do good? That's what makes them happier, by the way. It's a clue. Why do we feel good when we do good? Did you ever think of that? Might be tied to whatever is next awaiting us. That's for you to decide. And the last thing that happy top producers do is they never follow anything or anyone blindly. Least of all me. I tell my clients, if I ever tell you I found the way, run away. What you do, what I recommend is make your life an experiment. Put out different energy. Are you reacting a lot? Are you negative and angry a lot? Are you fighting life? Consider counting your blessings. Thinking about gratitude. What are you grateful for? Often in a day, but maybe you haven't been there. So start. Be easy on yourself. Have empathy on yourself. The first person to love is yourself, because then you can love others. You can manage that mind. You can learn to live from the inside out, right? Making the decision to be happy. And there'll be days that you'll get plenty of challenges. Life likes to test us. I think the infinite has a sense of humor. Oh, you think you've got that mastered? We'll send you this to see. But as you learn to live from the inside out and make the choice to be grateful, count your blessings, expand your self-awareness, your emotional intelligence, become a student of the game, learning how to help people, loving your work, having a passion for it so people sense it. As you make your life an experiment, you will prove to yourself what I'm talking about. That's what I encourage people to do. Prove it to yourself. I've written a number of books. You can find all those on Amazon if you Google books by Steve Lentini, Lentini. I'm not trying to sell books. What I'm trying to do is help people. And I've got a lot of writing on it and research that I've done. So you don't have to do the hard work if you don't want to. How could this be easy? Have fun, do good, and make your life an experiment and see what happens. Thank you.